Namaskar and welcome to Sansad Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues. Today we're going to talk about the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyaan, or the road to self-reliant India. On 12th of May 2020, Prime Minister Narendra Modi started the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyaan by announcing the special economic and comprehensive package of 20 lakh crore rupees to fight COVID-19 pandemic in India. The aim of this package was to strengthen the Indian economy and increase its competitiveness in the global market with the underlying objective of self-reliance. Prime Minister further outlined 5 pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat: economy, infrastructure, systems, vibrant demography and demand. The government also undertook several bold reforms such as supply chain reforms for agriculture, rational tax systems, simple and clear laws, capable human resource and strong financial system as well. Today, we will discuss and analyze the work done on this front in the past 2 years, challenges as well as the way forward ahead for making India self-reliant. And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you. Beginning with, we have with us Ms. Deepshikha Sikarwar. She is the senior editor with the Economic Times. We're also joined by Ms. Ashima Goyal. She is the former member of Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council and currently member of the Monetary Policy Committee with RBI. And Mr. Deepshikha, former Secretary General of FICCI, is also joining us. Welcome, all of you, to Sansad Television. I'll start with you, Ms. Goyal, and let's start by first trying to understand a bit more about this campaign, the self-reliance, self-reliant India campaign, and the key pillars, which the 5 of them, which I mentioned as were outlined by the Prime Minister. What is the underlying theme? Of course, it is making India self-reliant, but how do we achieve that?
Yes, I think Atmanirbhar itself is quite misunderstood because it's confused with the import substitution we used to have earlier and making everything in India. But I think fundamentally it's about strengthening our capabilities, capacities. So that is why infrastructure, education, skills, and also some amount of foreign competition, because in a closed economy, you are comfortable and you go to sleep, basically. So really important to have that competition and that openness. India's golden age was when we were open and exporting to the rest of the world, right? Mm-hmm. So I think most important for achieving this is improvements in governance, so that that ease of doing business. It's actually reducing the costs of business. I have argued that in India, we have a sort of cost push because of, the way our oil prices rise more than international, because although they're smoothed, they don't rise as much when oil prices rise, but then they don't fall when international oil prices fall. Earlier, this used to be through administered prices. Now it's through taxation. Mm-hmm. So all these factors, are essential to make us competitive. Okay. Logistics costs should come down. Infrastructure should improve, but it must be smart, green infrastructure. Okay. Not just building huge roads in forests which are not used. I think one of the most successful in this is really the village roads. One reason we are seeing a rise in agricultural exports is that the farmer in remote places is also able to take his produce, let his produce reach the market. Okay. So basically, if you look at it, the overall idea seemingly is to make Indian economy and the components of Indian economy more, globally competitive there. Let's also understand it from the industry's point of view. Mr. Chinoy, how does industry assess this campaign, which was launched 2 years ago, and the way it has moved ahead? In essence, as Ms. Goyal was pointing out, it's sometimes misunderstood, but obviously the ultimate goal and the aim is to make India self-reliant in various aspects.
So, Vishal, I just want to actually put into context what happened between November of 19 and the time when they announced the Atmanirbhar, plan.
The 6-month period you're talking about.
Yeah. That period, there's a peak just before COVID, actually before the lockdown in March, right? At that point of time, in February, a lot of industry sectors were hit because of supply chain disruptions from China. Mm-hmm. And therefore, it actually came home very strongly with government and industry. I remember in mid-February, the finance minister took a meeting in Ashok Hotel, and over 40 sectors were very, very strongly dependent. Our APIs for the pharmaceutical sector were dependent on China. Our titanium was dependent there. Our solar cells were dependent there. So what actually happened is that we said, how do we actually ensure that industry and India actually grow if all supply chains are actually cut off? So if you saw that, that is what you talked about the launch of this, saying, hey, can we become self-reliant, not in terms of closing out the outside, but can we reduce our dependence? And therefore, you look at different segments. So one of the direct offshoot of that is the 14 plus sectors where the production-linked incentive schemes have been announced. Starting from mobile phones, and then the latest one being drones, and all of that was really to ensure that we have production capability within the country, and we're not dependent, and we don't get disrupted because of non-availability of supplies. Even now, you see the chips are not available, it's impacting the automotive industry, impacting other sectors of the industry. And the government has also launched this huge initiative on the fab side. Okay. So that was the backdrop here. The second real incentive or second real push was because of COVID, small and medium industries, large industry, a lot of people were impacted. So how do you actually address the pain across different segments of society? So whether it was at the bottom, you're looking at free food, free ration for certain sections of society. Then you looked at the agriculture sector, looking at agricultural infrastructure, looking at a whole lot of things in the medium and small industry, the intervention on the meeting the provident fund payments by government. So for each segment of society to ease the pain and impact of the impact of COVID, there were a lot of steps taken. So it was really, one was to reduce our dependence on external, other countries, and if anything happens there, we should not get disrupted like this again. Okay. Second was to actually to negate the negative impact of the COVID on different sections of society. So in the 5 or 6 or actually 7 times the announcements were made on Atma Nirbhar Bharat, you found different elements of society being addressed. And then, of course, the big thing was this whole rescheduling of bank loans and, allowing that for the focus on the MSMEs. And then, the last announcement made for the tourism sector. So if you have to see the whole package like that, and infrastructure was one of the pillars. And infrastructure is actually a huge whole discussion on its own, because it started in 2019. And then, the latest announcement of the 20,000 crores on Gati Shakti by the finance minister in budget 2022 is the other aspect of that. Okay. Clearly, those are very important aspects, and not just MSME, the infrastructure sector. And if you look at the, the latest budget, that is 2022 budget, a lot of focus on self-reliance in defense as well, defense manufacturing as well. Let me bring in Deepshikha here. Deepshikha, as Mr. Chenoy was pointing out, various aspects of that huge package we were talking about. That's a huge number. 20 lakh crore rupees is a huge number. What we need to understand from you is, since you've been keeping a close watch, is how has that been distributed in various sectors and spent as well along these 2 years? And are we on the right path there when we're talking about the ultimate goal of achieving self-reliance? Of course, it'll take some time.
Of course. So see, if you look at the Atmanirbhar package, which was announced to sort of mitigate, to help out the businesses, industry, various sections of the society, to mitigate the impact that the COVID was to have. So we had PM Kisan, we had credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs. So there were various aspects of this package which have played out. You would have known about the IMF paper, which has sort of highlighted how, the food transfers really helped save millions from the poverty, being pushed into, extreme poverty. So that was one aspect of the package. The other aspect of the package was to help businesses, bear the brunt of the pandemic, particularly MSMEs, which were the most hit. So there was a credit guarantee scheme. There were other measures as well, like, which were largely reform measures. to help them grow, the change in the whole definition of MSMEs. So the package was actually, measures which were reform measures, the agri reforms, which unfortunately had to be sort of done away with. But the significant aspect of the package was reforms, measures that would increase India's competitiveness, improve, help various sections of the society, various sections of the various constituents of the economy, and also give relief during the pandemic, because there was a wide hit on the economy as well as on the people.
Okay.
The other aspects of this whole self-reliance, the measures that the government has been taking is, the pandemic really showed us, how, and it showed the world that how, depending on one supply source could really impact you tremendously. So at that time, we started with the whole, focus on manufacturing of PPP kits and, N95s and ventilators and so on. And the push showed its result on the ground. And subsequently, when these results were visible for everyone, the government started its big push on manufacturing, the PLI schemes, the 14 sectors which have been identified, the measures that have been taken. So while it is not that the India is closing for foreigners or is shutting down imports, but the whole idea is to make India's manufacturing competitive globally,
okay,
and to present India as an alternate investment destination, an alternate manufacturing destinations, because it was important not just for India to attain that self-reliance in terms of supplies, but also the world was looking for a second destination, to diversify from one country.
Okay. Okay.
So in that sense, it was a complete package that was, targeting various aspects of the economy.
Okay. Okay. That more or less sums up, how things have been handled in the past 2 years. But it also, takes us to another question, and that is what lies ahead. Ms. Goyal, I'll start with you this round, in terms of the challenges ahead to achieve this target, because it's not an easy target which we have set for ourselves. The road is not easy, and there are various components, various aspects which need to be taken care of on the way. Not just the money, but the policy tweaks as well, reform measures as well. The government has done some, perhaps some more might be required. So in your views, what will be the key areas to focus on and key challenges to tackle?
I like to call this regime export competition compared to import substitution that we had earlier. So what is important is that it doesn't degenerate into that import substitution. When we are saying that the rest of the world is looking for an alternative, they want to come to India, but we don't want to be dependent for another country. So then India has to be more reliable in the sense it is a democracy, it has a strong legal system. There are no arbitrary decisions taken. So we're a more reliable partner for the rest of the world. So we need to improve the functioning of our courts. We already have them. That is a major challenge to achieve this. The second is that tariffs on imports, they're double-edged. You want to protect, to encourage our own production, but a lot of these tariffs could be inputs into production.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult for a bureaucrat or for the government to sit and decide which good is an intermediate. They're trying to do that. So it is very important that these tariffs, the rise in tariffs that we've seen is temporary and it's targeted, so that industry does not become comfortable and ask for this protection. And it's dangerous because in the COVID era, a lot of these PLI targets that were given, COVID, so we can't do it, we need more time. That is dangerous, because then it will go on like that. And that is the way we became, very highly inefficient industry earlier in the protection era.
Okay.
So it's important that these protections are time limited and industry learns to. The idea of PLI is that you build economies of scale, bring costs down, and then you're out there and competing. These crutches are not going to be available forever. So it's important that those crutches are withdrawn in time.
Okay.
And then for Gati Shakti, etc., coordination, because one big problem in India is what the central government does if states don't do. There are restrictions at different places that cause a hindrance. So apart from the money for Gati Shakti, this focus on coordination across government departments with the center and states to smooth out and to have a quick reaction and to have more information and not to duplicate efforts to have the biggest sort of bang for the buck. All that efficiency of infrastructure and processes, all these are all very, very important for the successful implementation of these schemes.
Okay. Processes, efficiency of infrastructure, all these are really important there, as Ms. Goyal is pointing out. Mr. Chinoy, let's look at sectors now. And there has been a lot of work which has been done. You were earlier, pointing out the PLI scheme as well. In terms of policy tweaks also, various sectors have been, put in focus. But moving from here onwards, if we have to take a futuristic look at what we are trying to achieve, what are the key sectors you believe should be the focus areas from here onwards?
So I think a lot of what Ms. Goyal actually said is very, very true, right? So, that is one set of actions that need to be taken. But if you look at it, the digital infrastructure within the country, the BharatNet, we'll launch the 5G, the PM Vani scheme, and the ONDC project that is actually coming up. I think the whole digital space has to be looked at in a very significant manner, because I think the next whole issue is going to be where digital is going to come into every aspect of whether it's manufacturing or services, and therefore we need to look at it. But a very important point that Ms. Goyal made needs to be reinforced is the center-state coordination. I think a lot of the reforms which need to be done to make industry competitive at the central level maybe have been done. It is now the state, cost of energy, cost of power, distribution, state-level logistics issues, state level, productivity, other issues, state level, ease of doing business at the state level. That is where it is going to be hugely impacting, where the rubber hits the road. That's the area where we need to look at, and there needs to be a kind of, like they did in the Atma Nirbhar package, that contingent to your doing X, we will give you X more money. We need more schemes like that from the central government, which push the state governments to actually do more to increase and improve the ease of doing business and reduce the cost of doing business. The ease of doing business, actually, a lot of the processes add to the cost. So that is very important to look at that. But really the tech space and DSP and the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office is actually looking at a lot of that stuff, whether it's medical technology, education technology, or even other aspects of technology in different things. So we'll have to really focus on that, and we have to make it available to the last mile and to the last person in the whole system. And that's going to really be the challenge. What has also happened very quietly, that we've had the Indo-UAE FTA. Right? You have the India-Australia deal. You are now negotiating the EU deal. There are other, UK is there, we're looking at Canada. So I think that way, we are exposing Indian industry to a much more competitive framework going forward. And I think the states and the center have to get their act together to enable the cost to go down and us to become a really productive market, a productive industry going forward.
So digital infrastructure, technology, the key focus areas, and of course, that coordination between various stakeholders. A quick final comments from you, Deepshikha, on these two aspects. It's just not about the central government going ahead and putting a policy framework in place or, giving out a package, but it's also about other stakeholders. And other stakeholders, two of the major ones are industry and the state governments as well. They will have to work in tandem with each other. And then we're talking about the global scenario, as Mr. Chinoy and Ms. Goyal was also referring to, vis-a-vis the trade deals, which we're trying to enter into or have already finalized, increasing the competitiveness, the global competitiveness of the various components of economy. Is that the way forward?
Definitely. So if you look at, the center has been taking a number of steps to actually create an ecosystem to facilitate, the domestic manufacturing, domestic industry, and also to attract foreign investors. However, say for example, but if a foreign investor comes in and decides to set up a manufacturing facility, it doesn't require, in multiple sectors, it doesn't require central clearance. It will require land, it will require municipal clearance, it would require, multiple clearances at not just state government level, but also at local body level. So while there is this initiative which is being put in place, wherein you facilitate last mile clearances to foreign investors, but you have to ensure that that ecosystem is there. It fosters investors, and it facilitates them rather than becoming a hindrance. So you have to ensure that the ease of doing business achieves the last mile, while at the policy level, the center is doing taking a lot of measures. We're trying to get into trade deals which will sort of help our exporters, which will also help us getting cheaper imports, cheaper imported products through a reduction in tariffs, which should also help not just our consumer but our industry as well, to get cheaper inputs. So I think a holistic view needs to be taken both at the central and the state government level, which involves local governments as well, so that we can really facilitate and create this ecosystem to ensure that the industry can really prosper, and also ensure that these jobs are created, people are empowered and provided with incomes.
Okay. Ms. Goyal, do you agree with that aspect? The final one, really important before we bring this to an end, is that all stakeholders will have to complement each other in this scenario if we have to achieve the target. And therein, as Deepshikha was pointing out, it's just not the state governments, it goes down below to the local administration level.
Yes, we say, the states have to decentralize powers to the municipalities. That is an ongoing reform that has not happened in India. So I think that we have technology, as Ms. Chenoy was saying, and COVID has given an advantage to digitalization. It's advanced very, very rapidly. Another advantage we have is that a lot of the innovation here has been taken place by the state, and you have private skills. So already you have that coordination. There's a lot of e-governance you can do using technology. But I also think that the GST Council should be replicated. Another state center council where they sit together, learn from each other. There's convergence, you resolve problems. And states also want to contribute to growth, and there's healthy competition. You don't want to be the last man standing. You want to do well also.
Indeed.
I always wonder why we don't have much better convergence of things that really work across different states.
Okay,
so
clearly.
I think these are the means to sort of see that happening in the future.
Clearly, that is a very important aspect there. Thank you so much, Ms. Ashima Goyal, Ms. Deepshikha Sikarwar, as well as Mr. Dilip Chenoy, for sharing your views and insight. As our experts were pointing out, this is clearly a huge task which we have taken upon ourselves, that is making India self-reliant. And in the past 2 years, a lot of work has been done, not only in terms of money being allocated through various packages or incentive schemes as well, but also policy initiatives, policy tweaks, reforms measures as well. But as our guests were pointing out, this would require a much more work on behalf of all stakeholders, and most importantly, in complementing each other's work in achieving this target of making India self-reliant. We'll keep a close watch on all the developments here and keep on bringing you all the details also. Till then, keep watching Sansad Television. Thank you.